Hi there, I'm Marc Pagani and this is Tasting Tuesdays. Today we're looking at Elijah Craig's Rye, which is a new thing for them. It was originally released in, I think, January of 2020 in limited markets, select markets, and then it was spread out to the rest of the country. I think I bought this particular bottle this summer in Atlanta, this past summer of 2020 in Atlanta. As always, if you would like to subscribe and get a weekly dose of whiskey review videos, please do subscribe right down here by clicking on this little logo, and you'll get notifications about the next video being available. Also, if you want to skip right ahead to the actual tasting, you want to skip all the amazingly informative things that I'm going to say before then, you can go right to this spot in the video. Okay, so Elijah Craig, Heaven Hill Distillery. This particular bottle is 94 proof. It is what they're calling barely legal rye because it is 51% rye in the mash bill. It needs to be at least 50% rye. Actually, sorry, it needs to be at least 51% rye to be considered a rye, and that's what this is. I've always drank Elijah Craig. It's been quite a while, maybe 14 years, 12, 14 years I've been drinking Elijah Craig's bourbon because it's a good value, especially when it was a 12-year age-stated bourbon. It has always been around $30, $28, somewhere around there. This one is around $30. It's for a 12-year age-stated bourbon. It was a pretty good value. They've since removed the age statement. It is still small batch though, and it's a pretty good value in general, just for a daily sipper. And I was very curious about how the rye tasted because it's new. So here's some more information about Elijah Craig Rye. Elijah Craig Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey is 94 proof, has no age statement, and comes from the massive Heaven Hill Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky, which is a mecca to millions of bourbon lovers worldwide. The mash bill is 51% rye, which makes it a barely legal rye, meaning it has exactly the minimum rye content to be legally called a rye. It also has 35% corn and 14% malted barley. This combination of grains, which relies heavily on corn as the secondary grain rather than a higher percentage of rye, has been the primary rye mash bill used by Kentucky bourbon distilleries since taking over virtually all American rye production post-Prohibition. The same mash bill is used in Heaven Hill's Pikesville and Rittenhouse ryes. It won Platinum Best of Class at the SIP Awards in 2020 and was named a Top 10 Whiskey of 2020 by Whiskey Advocate magazine. Well, now that you know quite a bit more about this Elijah Craig Rye, I think it's time for some whiskey porn. Okay, now that you saw that sexy, sexy pour of this lovely liquid, let's go ahead and pour it again for myself and give it a taste. That's a good pour. So let's see what the nose is like. I get kind of a musty old oak covered with butter. It's got that a little bit of buttery scent, but it's got this underlying musty old oak thing going. And it's interesting, there's just a very, very touch of rotten egg, like sulfur. It's not strong at all. You can barely smell it, taste it, but it is there just a tiny bit. Overall, there's not a whole lot going on. It doesn't jump out of the glass and into your nose. Doesn't singe your nose hairs, nothing like that. So let's give this rye a taste. So there's initial light sweetness with a really, really faint hint of cinnamon Red Hots, those little candies. It's not super present, it's not super strong, but it is there just a tiny bit. It's not complex. It washed right over my tongue and the roof of my mouth. I'm gonna take another try. It's not as spicy as a rye like Whistle Pig or other ryes that have 100% rye in their mash bill, since this is only 51% rye. And certainly the sweetness comes from that high level of corn that we mentioned in the last little bit there when we were talking about the mash bill. When I say we, I mean me and my multiple personalities. So as far as finish goes, I think I want to try it one more time. It's pleasant. There's nothing offensive about it. It's relatively dry. When I say dry, I mean it's not wet coating my mouth. It's not a rich coating. I don't mean dry as in not sweet, which maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but when you try it, I think you'll know what I mean. There's a little bit of pleasant sweetness that lingers for just a few seconds, but it's not, like I said, it's not a rich mouth coating. It's sort of polite, you know, like an altar boy leading an old lady to her seat in the pew in church. It's that kind of super polite, not offensive, not bold, not complex, just kind of there. I think, you know, if you're just getting started on rye, it might be a great rye for you to try. If you're nervous about buying a bottle that's super spicy, as many ryes are, if you're nervous about having a bottle that is got a heavy dill content, a dill nose and a dill note on the palate, because a lot of ryes have that as well. It doesn't have either of those. It's just a very polite rye. And if you've got a friend who is curious about rye curious, you might want to try handing this over to your friend if you're really into ryes already. I think it's a good bottle for the price. I wouldn't pay more than $30 for it. It's not outstanding. It's not complex. It's not high proof. It's all the things that I generally like in a rye and in a bourbon and in whiskey in general. That higher proof, that complexity, that really long lasting finish. This doesn't really have any of those things. But for mixing in cocktails, I think it would be great. For handing out to your friends who are wanting to get into rye, as I said, that's a good option. It's a good bottle. It's just not going to blow your socks off, I don't think. But at $30, I don't think you should expect that from any bottle, really. So again, if you like these videos and you want more information and you want to get a weekly notice about what's coming up, what's going on, go ahead and click on that little logo right down there, and I will see you next week.